All right, let's explore some more of the capabilities that you may find on your Windows PC with regards to changes that maybe are needed occasionally or desired, not necessarily needed. It really depends on what you do and how you do this. So here is that mech again from Chris Locke, also known as DZ Fire. You'll find him on Facebook, you'll find him on DAS and a few other places coming up soon. So there's a 3D mech and it looks great. It is great. And however, we have some slight issues when we try to load it as is. This one here, issues fixed, but let me show you what happens if you are loading it for the first time. And there it is. So we've seen that one of the problems is that it may not show any coloring if there is no material file, right? So, and that's probably something we can fix in the future and just give it a default material. Right now we don't, so the object appears dark. And if we look at the wireframe mode, we can also notice that there are some complex polygons. It's a little bit difficult to see, but let's see where the joints are around here. Maybe we need to zoom in a little bit. Something like this. And then also move it a little bit so we see those joint areas. Yeah, somewhere around here. You can see there are some, look in this area here. Right, look around there and you'll find there's the flank of that main big body part. Let me see if we can turn around to the other side. Yeah, there's some, there you go. You see some big polygons going around there, right? And it is not properly showing filled. It's not filling it because we don't currently process anything but quads and triangles. So the polygons are probably fine inside the file, as we actually saw earlier in another video, but it is not going to work if we are, let's see if we can clear out a few things here. DZ Fire, that's the Facebook page I mentioned, so he has tons of great models. He's been doing this for years, creating 3D mechs and vehicles and lots of stuff that you probably will want to use in your games. Well, maybe. Anyway, there's lots of stuff there to be discovered, and I highly recommend you take a look at that if you're into game making. There's our mech. Actually, I don't know. That might be the same. It might be a slightly different one, but he does make 3D prints also, and certainly encourage you to contact him if you want something printed from by Chris Locke. So what do we do? When you click this, it shows in, what's this? Simply the previewer, right? In Windows, it can preview OBJ files and a couple of other, there's some gaming, what is it, GLB, I think. There's a couple of formats. You can also right-click it and open it in a couple of other ways. 3D Viewer is one that I have. If I double-click it, same thing. And 3D Viewer may throw its own light sources at it and do a couple of other things. You have different levels of shading and grids on the floor and stuff like that. But they all seem to be happy. And one thing you could do here is actually to save it back to another format. And when you send it to another format, let's see, this is going to be a folder for 3D Viewer. Let's go here. You actually have only one format to export it to here, which is GLB. That's fine. We can do that. That actually is something you can take back into Blender also. But you may not need to go through another application if you actually have this one. There is another application also from the store, from the online store. So if you look here, you can see search the Microsoft Store, and I already did that, but I just want to show you where to go. In the Microsoft Online Store, you'll find 3D Paint, 3D Viewer, and 3D Builder. So that's the big surprise one for me here. And when I did download this and install it, oh, look at that. It thinks it wants to install it again. So who knows? Maybe there's an update. But I really like the fact that this can actually load a couple of formats and save to a couple of formats. And even more so, fix a couple of things. Now, you could do that by exporting it to STL, stereolithography, right? But you would lose the colors and you would lose surface normals. Now, some viewers will build them when you load it back in, so not necessarily lost, but you lose colors. There are in STL, I think it's going to be monochrome, and that's why on NASA's website they recommend OBJ if you want to send it to a 3D printer and have colored parts in there, even decals, I suppose, stuff like that. But especially individual body parts that are, or mechanical joints that are in different colors. So one thing, what I did is I loaded this into. Let me go right here. Boom, 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 boom. 3D Builder. There. So when you go with 3D Builder, come on. There you go. Let's start at the top here. Go New Scene. Oh, I'm actually already on it. I'm going to simply open my Mac, or you go here to load an object. If it remembers where I did that last time, there it is. Load it in, right? So that's the OBJ file. In this one, actually, it's laying it down because it probably wants to get ready to print it, and it makes sense to have it in that orientation. But there's a couple of other things too. You can say what the dimensions are. Inches, feet, a mega monster, right? But the other thing too, regardless of the dimensions you're going to give it, one thing, once you accept it, import this model, it's going to analyze it and tell you there are some issues here. And that's really good because that's pointing at either parts that are not closed, which is not the issue here, I think. What's another possibility is that there are some polygons that are not triangulated. And that may be an issue for some, especially for 3D printing if you want to take it out to STL. So the great thing here, you just click here and that will repair it for you. Now it's a little bit time consuming because it's not a simple model. It has quite a number of polygons, probably a few 100,000. And some of them are quads, which will also be split into triangles, I think. Not 100% sure, but most importantly, those big ones that are around the joints that we saw earlier, those are getting fixed. So it's repairing the parts that it thinks are not perfect for whatever the use will be, which is most likely 3D printing in this case. It might be also 3D painting, right? So there's a paint option, there's some editing option, and I am just starting to discover that. But I just thought it was really nice that I can actually have it repaired and then hopefully have it actually triangulated along the way. And the thing is, even if it keeps some of the quads as quads, those we can actually display now, right? So in PD Howler, you can load an OBJ file, and if it has triangles, great. That's how we started. If it has quads, we now do that as well. And large polygons, like 5 or more vertices, we don't do. And those are simply holes. Those are missing, and it's quite complex to an algorithm to create a triangulated version, especially if you have concave, shapes in the in that polygon. It's not trivial at all. So we don't currently do that, and we relay that to other applications that do it better. And sometimes that application is actually you, the human. You can find in Blender and other tools the capability to edit the vertices or edit the polygons and say exactly how you want to split them and break them and tessellate them and that sort of things. So while I'm waiting for this here, we will have probably a need for this original polygon. So I'm going to copy that just so I have a safe copy of that. And because when I'm done with the repair that that's happening right here, and it's done now. Now that it's done, if I save it, that's right over here. It says I have some, so there's some material information might be lost unless I keep it in .3mf. And I don't know what mf, probably metafile or something like that. I'm going to keep it as is, and specifically for OBJ, because that's what I wanted. But there's also a material file, and I'm not sure why it suggests to put it in here. I thought I was going to save it as a OBJ. Maybe that's just the companion. Let's just keep it that way and see what happens. Maybe that's just the material file. So maybe that was just the material file that it suggested should also be saved. Let's see what it just added here. So this was the save copy I kept. This is the original, which I think it modified. Yep, that's the one with the improvements now. It had to reload it, and you saw the caching process. So I have the original here, I think, although this one might already be using my material file. Let's see what's in the material file that was created here. Oh, that's actually mine. Hold on a second. Let's do that again. Open this. Yeah, okay, so that's the export from 3D Builder. And the only thing we have here is diffuse coloring. Call it a new material default _0. I like the name, there's no spaces. That's perfect. And then we have the diffuse color, and that's all there is to it. So that diffuse color, if you look at it, it's kind of a mid-gray between 50% and 70. It's at 73% gray, 74 almost if you round it. So that's a good starting point. That's a very minimalistic material definition. And then, of course, we need the material right in here to reflect that. This one here is probably the original that I copied before I did anything. So let's see what we have here. If I open that in Notepad++, yep, that's still the original that was created by Chris Locke. It has the UV mapper was used to export. It doesn't have any material definition. It, I think when we go down to the vertices or the facets, there they are. There are some polygons. You can see here there are some polygons that are complex. This one here has quite a number of vertices lined up. So it's certainly bigger than quads. But let's see where we go to the end. There's others. So there's quite a number of polygons. These are quads right here. These are four vertices at a time, and there are some that are bigger. So these are the culprits. These are the bad boys. These are the ones we probably want to fix if we want to work with that in Howler. So let's see. Oh, I'm already in the facet area. So I need to go the other direction. Come on. Hiding. I'll find you there somewhere. There you go. Okay, vertices, and then once we have, there you go, one more. All right, so we have this strange thing we saw in the other tutorial where we have also a vertex texture, and that's the only one, but it's mentioned everywhere. I could easily do without that, right? I could get rid of this and then find all occurrences of this part here and replace it with nothing. Right? First of all, see how many there are. Yeah, that's 457,000 times that we say something that's not really going to change anything on the picture. So I'm going to say replace it all so that it's just going to give you the list of the indices for the polygon buildup. But that's one thing, right? The other thing is, do we have our own material? Yes, we do. That's this one here. And this object is using it. So you see it's a little bit brighter. But what can we also see in this? If we open that in Notepad++, we can see that now the vertices will be all triangulated. And it also comes with the material definition. See, this one here, the original didn't have. It has a figure. It identifies the figure. And I don't like the fact that it has a space in the file name here, or in the part name. But most importantly here, this one, that's the exporter what is this? That's not the right one. Here, brace P. Okay, so that's the one that we just fixed by removing all the texture addresses. Let's go now and open this one. Open with, you see by the way it's bigger too. The original here is 8 megabytes. This one is bigger. So clearly there were a lot of quads that were split into 2 triangles, and a lot of the complex polygons split into even more polygons, more triangles. So that's the net benefit here. And I'm going to go and open this with Notepad++, just so we can see and appreciate how a good OBJ file should look. You see a material library, MTL lib, material library, and of course that's the name we gave it. And so that's the name we got here for the material file, the material library. And then we have an object, and that's the first one. It's probably the only object. It's defined by a number of vertices. And once we have all the vertices, we start listing the facets. That's it. There are no other. Oh, no, there's actually more vertices here. Look at that. So maybe there are, I don't know why. That's an interesting one. There are more vertices here, and let's see how it ends as we go from one facet, from one object. There. That's a pretty big file. One more. There. Yeah, look at that. Oh, and in fact, there's even more than one. There's a couple of objects. So Control F. Let's find any occurrence with O followed by space, and then we'll see what objects there are. Oh, look at that. There's actually multiple objects. And I don't know how it determined to do that. I never looked actually in the original file. Let's see if that one had it to open with Notepad++ and search for that. No, that one did have absolutely no objects. So somehow the fixing that was created in 3D Builder actually split it and organized it by different objects. And it may be based on the topology of the whole thing, where it finds that there are certain parts that could be processed as themselves. So interesting. And most importantly also, if you look at this, where is it? There, this one here. So now we have multiple objects. And we also have just triangles. The facets here, just triangles. So if we look at any of the facets, there's just no more than 3 indices. These are all triangulated now. So, and that's really good. And then the other things too is that we have material. So let's see where we actually use the material. This one here defines the materials which come from this, and there is a material that we can use because we see it right here. Right, it's called default_0. So we should have in here a material definition that will say when we actually build the facets. Let's see if we have a use material. Yep, there it is, as predicted. So use material, and now we start building the facets. And it's probably going to have that each time we are in one of these objects. Each object is going to have a bunch of vertices, and then say, here's the material to use, and then here's the bunch of polygons built on those vertices. So that's how this works with OBJ. You can have a bunch of materials, a bunch of objects, even if they're all actually the same in this particular case. But you could now actually identify some, maybe do a default one, do a different material and see which one that's going to be simply by giving it a different color. Right? So if you go here into the material file, this one was material 0, and now we want to have also material 1. So we'll call it that, and we'll give it a different color. Let's say this one has much less red and a little bit more green, but less than what it had first. Let's say 4, and then a lot more blue, and maybe 8, something like that. And of course, that's just the diffuse color part. There's other specular highlights, transparency, and so on, and texture maps and other things we can throw at that as well. So let's see what happens if I now open this. I probably will want to open it, reload it in 3D Viewer, and hopefully that will actually grab. Oh no, look at that, it ignores that particular model, the textures. So how about the other one? Open with 3D Builder. Oh, you know what, I need to just go to Builder. Where's my 3D Builder? There it is. And build a new one here, new scene. I say I forget the old stuff, and let's go open and load that object again, which is this one, and that makes use of the material file, and it should, let's proceed with the material, and that's the one, that's the material file. And so hopefully we have the colors, and look at that, it's not showing it. So that's weird. I have something wrong in the way I built this. Well, that's okay, I'm not going to destroy this recording. The most important thing that we want to see is, do we now have the colors? And let's see, and I mean, I'm talking about having that in Howler, right? So if I go back to this one, This one should, if I double click that, should load that with the colors. Alright, we do have something here. No more plain black. Right, in fact, let me do a reset here. Okay, there you go. So I just did the reset, and I'm gonna go, let's stay in wireframe mode, because one thing you wanted to see is how does that now look if we are no longer supposed to have those complex polygons, right? We shouldn't have, yep, look at that, we don't have those holes anymore as we saw before. Let me zoom in a little bit, or move in. And yeah, we can see it's all triangulated. Those complex shapes, this one here, these big, long, elongated parts, they're all triangulated now. Let's do a little bit of a shading from the side. There you go. And then also zoom in a little bit more. Oop, that's too much to the side. Let's go and move it to the left. That's too much. Somewhere there. Yeah, you can definitely see that it's no longer a single big polygon, but it's a bunch of triangles. And of course, sometimes it does have a little bit of a side effect on the appearance. That really is where the difference is going to be seen between different rendering engines or different programs to view this and work with it. But at least we don't have those holes anymore. And for us, that's really all that matters right now, is that we want to have the full visibility of the entire object. Let's see if we also give it a little bit of ambient. Yep, that's even brighter. Let's get this one really full blast. And so we can rotate those two light sources around, and we can see it's no longer showing any holes or any openings, any gaps, broken polygons like it did before. So hopefully that will give you some ideas of how easily you can actually fix your polygons or your complex polygons if you have something similar with your models and you'd like to try to get them all into Howler completely, right? Not just partly, not just the triangles and the quads, but all of that. Now you can. And really kudos to Microsoft for having this little application called 3D Builder that can load models in a variety of formats and save them also to a number of formats and do that. Now, that's one way to do it. And if you don't have Blender or other 3D programs, that may be the only way to do it for you. But I wanted to share that because there is certainly a lot of things that you can do quickly this way. And sometimes it's still better to go to another program like Blender, where you can do even more very fine details of which polygons you want to work on, which ones you want to triangulate or tessellate or subdivide or add some bevels and do other stuff to it, right? So that's a different topic and a little bit more sophisticated. Here I just wanted to show you with 3D Builder from Microsoft, from their App Store, you can quite easily get to full visibility for these polygons, for these objects in 3D. All right, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.